Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing to keep the Grinch away from the toy drive.
Who's going to deliver the toys to the kids?
What about me, the Grinch?
No.
Yep, even easier than that.
You steal the presents one time.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Capital One NA, member FDIC. Copyright Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Copyright Turner Entertainment Company.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis, happy Sunday. I thought it was time to update on a few of the cases we've been following in the past. It's kind of hard when you're doing like a 5-day trial to find time to update on little updates, nothing major that would require a whole episode. But before we get started, number one, I just want to acknowledge that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We've covered cases that deal with the tragedies of domestic violence, such as Gabby Petito. And so these are some newer statistics that are staggering, which intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crimes annually in the U.S. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced either physical violence, rape, or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And each day in the U.S., over 20,000 calls are placed to domestic violence hotlines by people reporting incidents. 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. A weapon is used 19% of the time in domestic violence incidences, and women who are victims of intimate partner violence are more likely to be between the ages of 18 and 24. So then you go to spousal abuse. Any form of physical violence, 28.3% of women reported physical violence. 6.3% reported sexual violence, such as spousal rape, which is also the most underreported stat there. And then emotional violence is 14% of all women say they have experienced that. I know men also experience the same thing. There are options. There's phone calls you can make. 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. And it's one of those things where I think, too, as friends and family members, if you see something, we have to speak up. Even though we may think it's none of our business, it could save a life. I think one of the main reasons that women stay is due to financial hardships, but it just doesn't get better. It's a cycle, and those cycles usually are not broken. And we've seen the worst of what can happen with those cycles. So I just wanted to acknowledge Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to all those women who are experiencing all this, you are worth more. And, you know, getting out may be hard in the beginning, but you will be getting out with your life. So there you go. All right, song fact of the day. Before we jump in, Kiri, which is a song by Mr. Mister, a big hit in the 80s, actually is a shortened version of Kyrie eleison, which means Lord have mercy. And the Kyrie eleison is sung in traditional Roman Catholic full mass, but it is Greek, which early masses were. But the lyrics of the song, so Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel, Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. It's repeated several times throughout the song, but it just means Lord have mercy. So I've always liked that song. It's a pretty cool song. All right, so we're going to jump into Debbie Collier, because I'm going to tell you guys, this case has got me scratching my head. I really, really do think that investigators are at a point where they have a really good idea of who's responsible, but they gave a press conference earlier this week. They're still getting back subpoenas and things. I think they're building their case, and If they don't say to look out for some predator on the side of the road, they know who this person is most likely. So the presser really was kind of rumor control, as we know, gets out of hand in a lot of these cases. It says in an attempt to address the suggestions of this being a self-harm situation or the work of a serial killer, we want to reiterate there is nothing that has come from this investigation thus far that would support the theory that this was self-inflicted or that it was a random act of violence. At this time, the investigation is leading us to the proposition that Mrs. Collier's death was personal and targeted. So what's interesting is this. At 2:17 p.m., her car is captured by Tallulah Falls School's traffic camera driving north on Georgia Route 15. And I will put the link in the description, as always, with the photos for those of you who just listened. And so she's driving north on Georgia route. I don't know how you say it. I flip-flop. 15. And this is at 2:17. But I did the Google Maps of where this Family Dollar is related to where this traffic cam is. So it's about 12.2 miles or 16 minutes. She didn't enter the Family Dollar store until 2:55. We know, again, 2:17, they see her on that camera. So my question is, did she make a stop somewhere between where that traffic camera got her when she should have been there within 15, 16 minutes if traffic was good? And if you look at that photo that I put up, it didn't look like traffic was bad. It doesn't mean later down the road it isn't bad. There's just a time gap there that's very curious, because we know at 2:55 she enters that Family Dollar store in Clayton, Georgia. And so at 3:09 we know she leaves that Family Dollar store. But her daughter said that she didn't have her purse with her. But if you look at the surveillance, she does have her purse. She's seen coming in with it. She is seen going into that purse. And we'll get to that in just a second. I kind of jumped ahead. But as she walked out of the Family Dollar store, she sat in the parking lot in her car for 10 minutes. And during these 10 minutes, allegedly, is when she sent this Venmo to her daughter in the amount of $2,385. That was at 3:17. Right after that, her phone was turned off. She pulls out of the parking lot at 3:19 and went south on Georgia 15. So police are waiting to find out what device the Venmo was sent from. They'll be able to tell very easily which phone. Was it actually from Debbie's phone? Did she call somebody right before? They did confirm that her daughter Amanda got the money, but they say they don't know where that money is now. And here's the thing. When you do a Venmo, you have a couple of options. If you're not familiar with it, you can do an instant transfer into your bank account where you pay a fee, or you can set it to go into your bank account as a direct deposit without a fee, but it takes 1 to 3 business days. So it seems really weird that they don't know where that money is now. Maybe they're waiting on bank account records and things like that. The video I'm showing is of her sitting and then leaving. But, I think the thing to remember is right now, they're not confirming that Debbie actually sent this Venmo. And I'm curious why, if they have a question of where that money is now, why wouldn't Amanda offer where the money is? So we talked about the purse. The purse and the cell phone was found with her body. So, but we know, according to her daughter, her mom left with only a debit card and a phone. And that's curious. I mean, maybe she had more than one purse, but was she there when she left? Because that's not what we've heard. We've heard that that she saw her mom that night before and then talked to her daughter apparently that Saturday. We're getting to, I'm kind of jumping ahead today, y'all. I'm sorry. But at the press conference, law enforcement said, so there was a tip as far as her daughter being at that Family Dollar in her initial interview with police, where she was talking about her mother going to Family Dollar to get supplies to help her clean her apartment when she got back to Georgia. The investigator said, as far as anything regarding that Family Dollar visit, I don't think that she went with her. So they pulled the video footage from the store and talked with everybody who was in there. And he said, based off of that, they know Debbie was there, obviously, from 2:54 until 3:10, got into her car at 3:10 until about 3:19. And he said, based on their knowledge at this time, there was some confusion about her daughter being there with her, but they don't have any footage of her daughter in that Family Dollar. It was something that kind of started spreading around online really quickly. They also said that Amanda claimed to have talked to her mom some point Saturday afternoon. But Amanda had said she had last spoke to her mom on Friday afternoon or evening, saying that they went out to eat, ran errands, and then went home separately, which is contrary to what her and her boyfriend said as far as speaking to her on Saturday. So interesting. Investigators do acknowledge that the daughter's story has some holes in it. When asked about the possibility of Debbie meeting someone there, he says they're not ruling anything out at this point. The results of the autopsy and the evidence that they've submitted so far for like DNA, trace DNA, the autopsy itself could take up to 6 weeks. They have put a rush on it. They prioritized it. He said they've served several search warrants to different cell phone carriers and that they hope that information will give them a better idea, not only of the timeline, but also any clues as to who might be responsible for this. Another thing is her sister called 911 and said that Debbie had an encounter with an ex-convict who was driving a truck when a paint can fell off that truck and hit her car. And due to terms of his release, he wasn't supposed to be driving and asked her not to call the cops. But I really don't think this has anything to do with that. They've made pretty clear that this was not random, that it was targeted. And they haven't put any kind of be on the lookout for somebody who's been released from prison driving a truck. I think when they don't put an alert out for a suspect or to keep your eyes open, it's close to the investigation. If you remember with the Murdaugh case, I mean, the day they announced the murders of Paul and Maggie, they never said there was a suspect to look out for. That always, to me, is a big clue that they have ideas already. So police also found an unfired round at the scene near where her body was found. They don't know if she was shot. I mean, we don't know if she was shot because police haven't said. All we know is that her abdomen was burned. And law enforcement said it's very possible she could have been alive at the time she went down that ravine where she was found. And it's possible that she could have survived the abdominal wounds from the burns they saw, but they're awaiting autopsy and toxicology reports to come in. Another thing is during that press conference, they used the word suspects several times, plural. They said, we've not changed our thoughts on this being a homicide. We're still treating this as a murder investigation, and we will not change that. There was a little confusion about that because if you looked at that police report at the very bottom, there is a box checked where they kind of suspect maybe drugs was involved. And he said, so patrol deputies, when they respond to scenes like this and they don't know exactly what they have, they normally mark whatever may be applicable. And in this case, because it was so questionable and there were so many unknowns when they got to the scene, they marked it as a possibility that it could be drug related. But he said the investigation at this point is not leading them in that direction. As far as the 911 call made by her husband, he said he came home. My wife isn't home. Her driver's license is still in there. The rental car is gone and her daughter's here. This call was made around 6 p.m. on the 10th, the day she was seen at the Family Dollar and last seen alive. This was the initial missing persons report that was filed. He says, we're kind of worried about what's happening and where she's at. I was wondering if you could send somebody here. He was asked if maybe she could have went to someone's house, and he said, that's a good question. I thought she was out shopping for food. Her daughter came over with a strange message and then went upstairs to her bedroom and found out that her driver's license and credit card was still here. So that didn't sound like her leaving the house to go shopping like I thought she was. So my thing is this. I've always questioned, she gets this Venmo transfer and this strange message with that transfer that worried her, according to what she said. But why did she wait 3 hours to call 911? And why didn't he mention the Venmo transfer? He only mentions that strange message. So you would think she would tell him and that he would definitely remember, well, she sent over $2,000 to me. He said his wife had no medical issues and that he had been working all day parking cars for the Georgia football game. That alibi was confirmed. He was seen there and he left after 4 o'clock. I think phone records are going to be key. Location pings, not only that from everybody's cell phone in her family, and maybe some more information from XM Radio. You know, they were the ones that originally alerted them to the location of that van where they found her body. And I want to know, when did she leave home? At what time? And did she stop anywhere after that car was seen going on Georgia 15, where you've got, her going down the road and there's a time gap there. So the traffic cam also, did they see any cars coming or going that are associates of hers, family members, anything? So anyways, they give the number. You can call Cale Garrison or George Kaysen at 706-839-0559 or 706-839-0560 for any information. So we're going to jump over to Eliza Fletcher, the mom who was abducted and killed while jogging. She went missing on September 2nd and her body was found on September 5th. And we know 38-year-old Cleotha Henderson is in custody for her abduction and murder. They released her autopsy report. Cause of death was a single gunshot wound to the head and blunt force injury of the head. And so she had bruising on her right thigh and leg and extensive facial injuries. They didn't indicate whether or not that came from the gunshot or something else. What's interesting is she had fentanyl in her system. And the medical examiner found no overt evidence of sexual assault, which I thought was interesting because since his arrest for murdering Eliza, he's been charged in another abduction from September of last year, 2021. He was indicted September 8th. It was for aggravated rape, especially aggravated kidnapping and possessing a firearm as a convicted felon for that prior incident. And here's the thing. There's been some back and forth about this case involving this other woman from September because the Jackson Crime Lab pulled the rape kit from that September 2021 incident and tested it on June 24th of this year. So the kit came back on August 29th of this year, and the DNA database, the CODIS system, showed Cleotha Henderson as a possible suspect. But it wasn't given to TBI until September the 5th, which is actually the day they found Eliza's body. So the delay in testing the kit is now the result of a lawsuit by that victim in that case last year. She's suing the city of Memphis for failing to collect and process evidence properly. The lawsuit says investigators did not take physical evidence from the crime scene when they got there. They failed to expedite testing on the rape kit, didn't fix an issue with a lineup that could have identified Henderson and led to his arrest, which, as we know, could have saved Eliza's life and prevented this from ever happening. So, like I said, the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, and the Memphis Police Department are pointing fingers back and forth at who's to blame for this delay. So the TBI says Memphis PD didn't request the kit be rushed. And the Memphis police chief, C.J. Davis, told city council for us to take DNA evidence, forensic evidence, and follow up on a victim who has alleged that a rape occurred. We treat that particular incident the same way we treat others. I think that the problem is that we're just one cog in the wheel. TBI takes in not just our rape kit evidence, they take in all of our forensic evidence. We're basically right in line with the rest of the state waiting to receive those results. So TBI told the Commercial Appeal in an email statement that DNA testing at the Jackson Crime Lab, which receives most of the DNA evidence from law enforcement agencies in all of Western Tennessee, the average return on those tests was, get this, between 33 and 49 weeks. The TBI spokesperson also said there are 4 forensic scientists who work that Jackson crime lab, and they're also responsible for reporting to crime scenes as they happen and testifying in court in cases where they have analyzed DNA. And wow, I mean, it's scary to think that results take that long. I think that these counties have got to staff appropriately so that you're not waiting 20, 30, 40 weeks while a potential predator is out there walking around. I mean, I know budgets are tight, but there are a lot of things tax-wise that states and cities spend money on that could be delegated to stuff like this that keep the general population safe. I'm not in politics. I don't know. Letitia Stauch. All right. So she filed a lawsuit against El Paso County on September 22nd for alleged mistreatment while in jail. She claims medical neglect and rights violations, including the lack of kosher food. She was late to her September 15th hearing, and she was heard saying it was due to her not getting toilet paper. And she was also complaining there was no air conditioner in the jail van. She names some deputies and a food company in her. By the way, this is a handwritten lawsuit, y'all. And I'm not going to go through it all because it's just, it's very Letitia. So she says from July 21st or July 2021 to February 2022, her First Amendment right was violated by means of her kosher diet. She expressed concerns of her meal not being wrapped appropriately, items that were not kosher but placed in their diets, and a violation of sanitation by putting kosher on open trays. She said she alerted superiors who she says refused to contact Trinity Food Services and let administration know of those violations. She lists a bunch of dates and people she spoke to. She said staff was using a pen to put a K on non-kosher items that did not already have the standard of approval. And she said the jail played the blame game, saying that the food was the company's fault and that the administration of the jail failed to monitor and adjust the violation she complained about. She also complained she was not provided kosher meals while attending hearings, and the sack lunches were a violation of her kosher sign policy. She said after several attempts, she noticed retaliation and either wasn't given her kosher meal or it was delayed for hours while other kosher and non-kosher inmates had their meals. She said an officer sent in a violation of kosher to the religious program and they terminated her meal. She says this is because an officer observed her violating the kosher diet by eating other foods, to which Letitia said she explained came from commissary and weren't excluded in the kosher diet list. So from February 14th to August 14th, she was suspended from her kosher diet, which she said resulted in weight loss, depression, and being limited to one meal a day due to how expensive commissary items are. I'm sure she don't have anybody putting money in her account. She got meal privileges back on August 14th, and on the 17th, she told a deputy snipe that her food was not approved and it was processed with other items and that it was contaminated. She said the deputy told her, if you don't like it, don't come to jail. She goes on to say that after her arrest in March of 2020, she explained she has extensive stomach issues with irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, with symptoms present 12 days a month. Now, look, guys, she goes into great detail about her tummy issues. I will spare you guys. She lists all the dates she was having stomach issues and what was not done for her. Also, she said she rolled off the top bunk and sliced her head open, and she wasn't seen but was told to alert medical staff if she experienced the symptoms of a concussion, which she said she did and still wasn't seen. So now she has headaches, difficulty thinking clearly, and remembering information. So she lists all these defendants in her handwritten thingy of what they did and didn't do for her. So the last update, Harmony Montgomery's father, Adam, hasn't been charged with her death yet. They've ruled, as you know, that Harmony was murdered sometime a couple of years ago before she was even reported missing. He has been charged with second-degree assault, interference with custody, and endangering the welfare of a child. But his attorneys are asking the judge to suppress evidence, including statements he made to police right after investigators learned that Harmony was missing. And this was back last year. His attorney said Adam told investigators several times he did not want to talk to them, but they continued questioning him. They play an audio clip from December 31st of last year. And it says it was between Detective John Dunleavy and Adam. And the detective says, you're not in any trouble right now that I know of. Okay. We have no warrants. Okay. So where's your daughter so we can check on her? Adam said, right now, I've got nothing to say to you guys. So the detective still talked to Adam, and he eventually said Harmony was with her mom. That detective in turn contacts Harmony's mom, who freaks out saying she's supposed to be with him. Investigators, as we know, they think Harmony was murdered in December of 2019 when she was 5 years old, and the judge has taken that under advisement and hasn't ruled as far as I know. So those are just some updates on this case, that the cases that we do follow. And tomorrow is another day of Wagner testimony, and all week it should be. They've replaced the juror who seemed to be having some medical issues. Tomorrow, we start back with the cross-examination of Frankie's ex and the mother of his oldest son. And she opted out of being recorded, but Big E's going to be in the courtroom and shoot me some notes as soon as he can. And then hopefully people will opt in tomorrow. As I've said, most of the Manley and Rodens have opted in. I want to correct one mistake. I went back and tried to edit it out. I was talking about how Kenneth had saved all this money for his daughter to go to nursing school. And I mistakenly said the Wagners seem like good people. Obviously, I meant the Rodens. I have edited it out of the video version, and the Spreaker version, I don't think it's updated on the Apple Podcast version or elsewhere. So I do apologize. I hope you guys knew what I meant. And anyways, all right, guys. So that's it. Just wanted to do some updates. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. But until then, we'll see you tomorrow evening.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.